I've been asked to talk about my relationship with God. And I think as I battled to prepare for this thing, I listened to the previous speeches, Brady and Frau and Alba and Coach Sprague. And that's a tough act to follow. But as I kept going, I was struggling with one point, and that is, and this may be strange, and Zinda's going to give me a bunch of abuse, but the definition of God. And I was trying to establish my relationship with God, but what is God? Who is God to me? And I would offer to you that God is different for everybody. All right, and there are some kids here that came here for the very strict Catholic, campus ministry focused, religious education, and it's something you desired and needed. Cool, we're here to do that. I know there's some guys out there that are probably atheists and they don't believe anything in God. They don't want to hear the religion stuff. They want to get a great education. And that is perfectly cool for them too. But all that does is support my point that the definition of God to each of us is very personal. And it can be the very religious side, it can be the non-religious side. But how does the concept of God affect you? And that's really what I want to talk to you about, and it's the definition piece. So when I grew up, I graduated from grammar school in '63. So in about 1958, which you can't possibly fathom, I was in 3rd or 4th grade, whatever it was, do the math. And Sister Bernadette Mary stood up there and she goes, "Timothy, who is God?" And the way we were taught was the Baltimore Catechism. It was a religion book, and you had to have that thing memorized. So Sister Bernadette Mary, who was really cool, by the way, she was the one you wanted to be on the kickball team with, because she rolled up her habit underneath her rosary and she could blast the ball. But she was really awesome. And she goes, "So Nally, who is God?" "God is the supreme being who made all things." That's what it said in the Baltimore Catechism. "Thank you, Nally. Have a seat." No idea what I just said. No idea what God meant. All I know is Sister Bernadette Mary gave me the pass. So that's one view on my side. Then I had 3 boys. My boys, Matt 98, Ben 02, and AJ 06. So they were here, and they went through, and they did religious ed, and then Kingdom Quaid and did this experience. And I just said, "So guys, what's up with God with you guys?" And they were a little tweaked, I'll be honest with you. They just sat there and said, "Dad, we don't get the God is the supreme being and made all things. We don't get the guy changed water into wine. We don't get that he parted a sea and had it roll all back." Because that doesn't do anything but scare me. I don't know what that means. So we had to deal with the diversity of God is the supreme being and made all things with what the kids call the hocus pocus. All right, so it's that magical thing, and they had a hard time relating to that. So we had an issue with one of our diocesan priests in our parish, and my wife got a little tweaked, and we went and met with Father Dick Noonan, who was here back in my time here, and Father Frank McNamara, 2 Jesuits who were awesome guys, who are clearly the biggest influences other than my parents in my life. So if you think I'm screwed up, you can blame those guys. But for me, it really helped understand what was going on. And their net was, "Look, Nally, you're going to have all these kind of things. You can not believe in the hocus pocus and all that kind of stuff. But what's important for you to understand is 2 things. And this is what I took from my McQuaid experience, and I'd like to think I'm practicing this today. Be a good person. A good person. You know what a good person is. You know the things that you should be doing that take care of your brothers, that take care of your family, that are generally considered good things. Be a good person, do the right thing, even if the right thing disadvantages you. So I use the example of you pay for something and they give you $5 more change than you should get. What do? I know what 90% of you are going to answer. Put it in your pocket. Good thing, good person, you give that back, because that cashier has to balance at the end of the day, and if they're short $5, they got to come up with the $5 to balance the books. So it's the right thing to do. And those are the kind of things that you go through life, and you need to understand and evaluate, how am I a good person and how am I going to do the right thing? So the way it played out when I talked to the boys was they were less concerned about the hocus pocus and more concerned about being a good person and doing the right thing. That's what this experience is about. That's what the brotherhood is about. That's everything that we're trying to teach you, whether it's from campus ministry to your physics class. We're trying to teach you to be good people, make the community in which you live a better place, and do the right thing. So from a God standpoint, that was important for me. It was important for my kids. They got by the hocus pocus and they go, okay, I get it. And I think to this day they're very fine young men. They've had their issues like others, and we're going to talk about that. But that's what this experience is about. And for me, that was the definition of God that I shared with my kids. Then I was very fortunate, and this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but I went on Kairos my first year here. And that was with the class of 2013. And I will say this to you, as 70 years old, that was the most transformative experience in my life. That if you're wondering whether to go, and this is not a shameless plug, if you're wondering what Kairos is about, Kairos really showed me what it meant to be a man and a good person, and who God is in my life. So from that standpoint, I had one of the kids in my small group explain it. They go, well, look, Nally, I suffer from the hocus pocus thing too, but what I try to believe God is hope. So if you're in a place where you have anxiety, and for the juniors in the room, the college thing's a major torture, seniors, same thing, all you guys going through that, there has to be quite a bit of anxiety and stress related to that. And I'm going to talk to you about a couple instances that I had. But what I got from that, what this kid helped me understand was, it was the hope that on the other side of this issue, of this stress, of this anxiety, on the other side of that is where you want to get. It's the hope from getting you to where you are, to give you the strength to fight through the baloney you're going through and come out on the back end in good shape, prepared to just face the next challenge that may come up in your life. And my title was Handling Life's Challenges, and I want to focus on that because we all have them. All right? So hope was the thing that came out of there, and it gave me great strength to know, all right, I can deal with the short-term things that happen. I know I can handle those, because I know on the other side is goodness, is hope, is where I want to get, and will allow me to have a foundation to prepare for dealing with the next challenges. Okay, so the message of all of this kind of stuff is you need to find out who God is for you personally. And for me, it is the hope that I can beat the challenges that face me, and then I'm going to come out on the backside in good shape, and then I'm going to be strong enough to face the next one. So that's the perspective that I'm going to talk to you about in God. You guys got to go figure out who is God to you, and it might be the atheist view of he ain't around, he or she or whatever it is ain't around, and on the other side of that is the very Catholic Christian view of that. You guys need to find out who that is or what that is for you. We good? That's the definition. All right. Now I got two stories to tell you, and they're sort of like a before and after. So I was 25, moved out of the house, you know, and I get a phone call, and my dad had an aneurysm on the golf course. He was 52 at the time. So for those who I play golf with, Tata McCann, you're here, right? You've seen my crappy golf game. Now you know why I'm in the woods a lot. But my dad's in the woods. He punches one out, and he has a cerebral aneurysm, which is basically your arteries develop a weak wall, and from the stress and the pressure and the tension of punching it out from underneath a tree, pow, it burst. So all the blood in his head went to the top. He passed out. He was fortunate to be playing with 3 doctors. So they stabilized him, took him to the hospital, and 2 days later, we had to fly him to one of the 2 places in the world that did this new procedure to go in. It was down here, so this is nasty. They take the front of your head off, and they peel it back, and they go in there and wrap it up with like a patch for an inner tube. And they have some kind of thing, and then they go into the back and they do that. Obviously very stressful. We fly him on an air ambulance over to Ontario, Canada. The only other place was Stockholm, Sweden. And we flew him over there. I drove 7 hours to meet him, and 50-50 chance he was going to make the flight. He makes the flight, surgery goes great, but he had significant brain damage. Short-term memory was gone. He would see you and not remember who you are. It was very stressful for the family and for my mother. And old school is the oldest son takes over, okay? So I was the first of 5. My job, I'm dad. Well, I'm 25, and all I cared about was I'm playing softball tonight, drinking beer, and kissing my girlfriend. And now all of a sudden, I'm the man at the house. No idea what to do. I struggled with that and talked to my siblings, and we all just focused on take care of mom. And so we felt very good that we were taking care of mom. In retrospect, she was taking care of us. So that brought us together as a family, but I really struggled with how to help in there and how do I take over as dad. I did not have that support, that foundation, that belief. I didn't have the Kairos experience, so I had the hope and that type thing, and I struggled. But all I did was focus on taking care of mom and my brothers and sisters, and we got through it. Very difficult, but we got through it. So after that, he passes away after 12 years, and then my mom finally gets a break. She can go play golf on her own, have lunch with the girls, and that kind of stuff. 6 months later, she's diagnosed with Parkinson's. So we did 10 years of Parkinson's, and for those of you who have experienced it, it's a nasty, nasty disease. So I did like 25 years of watching my parents slowly deteriorate and pass, and without the foundation of that Kairos thing at hope and that kind of thing, I really struggled with that personally, but you know, stubborn Irish German, I just banged through it and just took care of my mom and took care of my family. So that's the background of how I got into some of this kind of stuff. Then Kairos happened, and I'm sorry, I don't get commission on signing Kairos guys up, but I want you to understand how important that experience is and what an opportunity it is for you guys to have this insight. So I go, and then I can't give you the whole thing because I'd get killed. But there's an exercise in there where you're asked some questions about how are you feeling? How has Kairos affected you? What do you think is a result of this? What are you going to do differently? Those kind of things that are very introspective, which is the intent of Kairos. So I'm going into this thing, my first Kairos. I'm with Joey Laurie from the class of 13. We do the around the room and all that kind of stuff. We get to the end, and Laurie goes, "Hey, Nally, this is your first Kairos. You got to answer the questions too." Well, the only problem was 15 minutes before I went into that exercise, I got a phone call. My oldest had been having some problems. He's ADD and some depression. We have some depression and alcohol in our family, like a lot of families. And I get a call from my wife that we had some issues with Matt. He was taking money, the classic. And I also think, Jen Kaiser does the drug and alcohol counseling here. There's a video about Matt, and some of you may have already seen it. Well, he had stolen money from us. He had stolen money from his wife. The whole opiate drill, and she kicked him out. And then he ended up staying with my second son, and he kicked him out because he was a drug addict. So she calls us up one morning at 7 a.m. and said, "I was just walking the dog around the neighborhood, and on one of the side streets, I saw Matt's car, and he was sleeping in the car." So 15 minutes before I go into this, my kid's a drug addict sleeping in his car. So I go in there and we have the conversation, and then Laurie asks me the questions. I got about 20 seconds into my explanation of how I'm doing and just lost it. I still had not been able to process that my kid was an opiate addict and sleeping in his car. It's, when you have kids, it's probably not one of the alternatives you're thinking about coming out of that thing. But so it was very traumatic. They asked me the questions. I lost it and got so much support from those 9 guys. And they're 17-year-old guys. And then they tied it back to the hope discussion that we had talked about. And they put it in the perspective of where they're coming from and helped me out. I came out of that thing feeling so great about I have the tools finally to deal with all this stuff about my dad, my mom, and now my oldest son. And it was the hope thing. And hope to me is God. So I just sat there and said my relationship with God as a result of Kairos was this hope that allowed me to deal with this kind of craziness. And that was a huge weight lifted off my back. I could finally, I'm a math guy, I could finally rationalize in my head some kind of ability to mentally and emotionally get by all that stuff and then just deal with it. So from my standpoint to this day, kudos to Matt, 8 years he's been sober. And we had, just to make sure that I learned all this stuff from Kairos, the dear Lord, I'll say blessed us with Benny, the middle one, 02, who suffers, probably has the most depression of the family. He was self-medicating with alcohol. So I get the call from, like, was it 4 years ago? He's going, Dad, I went out last night, I drank a bottle of vodka, and I don't remember anything after 7 o'clock, and I got home at 2 in the morning. He goes, I don't know what I did, what happened. I could have killed somebody, I could have killed myself. And we went back to Tully Hill and did the rehab stint again, first with opiates with Matt, and then alcohol with Benny. But I was so much more able to process that because of Kairos, my relationship with God, my understanding that there is hope, that Matt will get through this and be a great dad, and that Benny will get through this and be a great kid, still be great kids, but just get rid of their addiction. So not only did I have my mom and my dad with their things, I had Matt with the opiates, and I had Benny with the booze. So I stand here in front of you today convinced that if it wasn't for that definition of hope and my experience at Kairos, I don't know, I'm sort of a slug math guy, I probably would have just passed it away, but I would never have the peace and the comfort in my life to be able to live my life, let alone stand up in front of you guys and talk to you about that kind of stuff. So if this seems like a shameless plug for Kairos, take advantage of this, guys. It's something you can't believe. And it's also from our education there. There's the every day for the rest of your life. I could get a phone call in 2 minutes now that Benny went off the wagon or Matt started using again, and I'm back in the same crap again. But I will tell you, I look at that much differently now because of my relationship with hope, with God. I look at that and handle that much differently than I would have had I not had that relationship with God. It's a foundation that you guys need to give to yourself, especially you guys. The stuff you guys go through now. In our days, my dad told me, you're going to McQuaid, you're doing this, you're doing that, and there wasn't any discussion. But you guys, with the stress and the pressure of social stuff, social media, vaping, drugs and alcohol, what college am I getting into? Am I getting in the right one? Am I going to be, all that stuff that you guys go through right now, you need to have a support system for that. I was a slug math guy. Where am I playing baseball tonight? Where am I drinking beers? That was it. You guys have much tougher things to go through, and you need that kind of stuff, and you need to pursue a solution to that before you get out of here. And I'm going to tell you, one of the avenues for that is a retreat. And whether it's Emos, Kairos, come and talk to me or Brady or Zinda or whoever. But you guys got to get in touch with that and be able to deal with that and know that that support is there and that you can handle it and you can move through and succeed. So let me just wrap it up real quickly. These are things, as I said, that are foundations to your experience. And you got to believe me on that when it took me 60 years to figure it out. But with what you go through in your life, you need to have that comfort. And if I'm you, and I'm doing this because I love you, if I'm you, I'm going to see Drams right after this, and I'm signing up for Kairos to start to understand who I am as a man. Where is there a support system that can help me get through all the challenges that we all have and all will continue to have? If you're ignoring that and you go, hey, I live in Pittsburgh, I got a lot of money, everything's cool, you're missing the boat. You're missing the boat. You need to go through these experiences and understand who God is, number one. Took me to 60 years old to figure that out. And what role does God, whatever that shape and form it is for you, what is God's role in my life, and how does God help me with that? Those are important things, guys, and you need to be taking a look at that. So my relationship with God now is awesome, and it's enabled me to deal with those scenarios that I just told you about, that I'm sure y'all have the same kind of thing. But you need to have that so you have that support system. Not just the brothers in the room or yakking with me or Brady or Drams or whoever, but for yourself and for your friends. All right? And you can do that thing through the retreat experience here and just being here and living the McQuaid experience. So we're all here for you, boys. If you got any questions or you just want to yak, come on up. We can go to lunch, we can sit in the office or whatever. But don't sit there and feel like you're alone, and don't sit there and feel like what do I do now? Open up. Talk to people, talk to those people that can help you, talk to yourself, talk to your version of God, and let that get you through all the trials and tribulations that are ahead of you.